Deep down, I just wanted some type of relief from suicide and depression, all the hardcore PTSD symptoms, survivor's guilt, all that stuff. I wanted some type of relief from that. I needed it, and I was willing really to try anything. That's a sweet spot when people come to me, like when when they're at the end of their rope, that's when the medicine's going to work the best.
I'm Greg Rennie.
And I'm Rob Reeford. And this is Mind Body Matters.
Welcome to our little show, and we talk about the mind-body connection, everything that has to do with our physical and mental wellness. How's your mental wellness today?
There's a loaded question. I've had a week. I don't know. I think people are off this week. As you know, I talk to a lot of people every week. Mm-hmm. I drive cab part-time, and I get talking to people, and I'm just noticing that people are a little off right now. I don't know what's.
You know what I think it is? I think it's like we're just into January now, and I think people are still recovering from the holidays.
I think that could be part of it. I mean, all of a sudden the holidays have passed, and here we are in January, and it's dark out. Well, that's another thing too I want to mention. I find with lack of daylight, people don't have the energy that they do, say, in the summer months. That's what I notice. So in answer to your question, I'm up and down this week, but all things considered, I'm okay. And that's an honest answer.
Yeah, my mental wellness, in the wintertime, it's always difficult. I go through bouts of depression, but...
What do they call it? SAD, seasonal affective disorder?
Yeah, some people have that. Yeah. Mine's more, clinical depression. It's this friend that I see every winter that, we tend to jump down into a dark black hole, but I've become used to that and know how to cope with it. But this week, there's a little bit of that, but that's January, and I know that come spring, things are going to feel a lot better.
Yeah. Something to look forward to.
So, yes. Remember when we talked with Dr. Singh a little while back?
He was the doctor who he gave out drugs to get results from patients, basically.
Well, a psychiatrist does that, I guess, yeah. But I mean, the drug, like, it's not like he's like handing out, drugs. He's handing out medication,
but he would. Exactly. However, what I'm saying is like I was blown away when I heard a doctor talk about the use of magic mushrooms, for goodness sake.
Right.
That blew me away.
Me too. And so I'm not sure, listeners, if you've caught that episode with Dr. Singh. He is a psychiatrist here in Canada, and he's being trained to use not only the traditional psychiatric medication, but to use, as Rob has said, magic mushrooms or psilocybin. Also the use of ketamine and MDMA. And there's a lot of talk about that. And in that discussion, there's another drug, let's say, plant medicine-based drug called Ayahuasca. Have you heard of this at all?
Just a little bit, and it was through our research for our guest today.
Right.
But that's the first time, honestly, I had heard of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I spoke with Drew Banke, our guest today, a little while ago on the phone about this episode, kind of like a pre-show kind of thing. And he shared that he went to a double ceremony of ayahuasca with his wife. In that ceremony, he took this drug. I'm sure he'll explain a little bit more about how it's used. But it's another mind-expanding drug that people are considering to have a spiritual experience. But I'm hearing recently that they might be using it for depression.
Interesting. I guess we'll find out.
We will. Let's go to the interview. Here's Drew Banke, our guest today on Mind Body Matters. Well, we have Drew in the studio here. Hi, Drew.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, we talked on the phone a couple days ago, so I've been looking forward to this. You're in Colorado, in the south part of Colorado, right?
Correct. Yeah, I'm down here in southern Colorado in the San Luis Valley. Got a large history of UFO activity in this valley, and going back, to the Native Americans and everything. There's several different tribes that have deep ties to this valley, and particularly this mountain that's that's right in front of my house. It's about 2 miles from my house, but it's Mount Blanco, which is in southern Colorado, and it's kind of the end of one range with the Sangre de Cristo mountain range, which runs north to south up towards Denver. So we're right at the end of it, and there's a lot of interesting things here. I'm lucky to call this home. It's our base.
Your base, yeah. And some meteorite craters are in that part of Colorado.
Yeah, Crestone, Colorado is right up in the valley, about an hour and a half from us. It's a spiritual mecca. There's over 38 spiritual centers there. There's ashrams, Buddhist retreat centers, peyote churches there. That's if you know, like about Crestone, but if you haven't heard of it before, take this as an initiative to Google it and look it up and see what it's about. It's a real magical place. It's in the United States here, and we're also close to the Great Sand Dunes, and close to the Colorado-New Mexico border, which is there's a lot of traffic along that latitude line across the globe of UFO activity along that corridor, and I believe it connects to the meridian points of the Earth and energetic ley lines of the Earth. I think that's why I believe it's the 37th parallel. So your listeners can welcome to Google that and stuff. But I live close to that, so definitely a lot of things out here. People come out here just to look at the stars sometimes. So.
Amazing that so many spiritual centers and Buddhist centers are in that area. Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on down there.
The fall celebration to the gods and goddesses going into the fall and winter months. They have a similar thing that happens in the springtime, but this is a Hindu Buddhist tradition that we go and take part in when it's possible. We like take the family. I got two young ones and my wife and everything, and we go pray there. But we pray in many different religions and ways. We visit when we can, and to share our prayers with them, because we recognize them as a language, different languages, but all speaking the same message when it gets down to it. And that's skipping forward to the whole conversation, that's what really I learned. One of the big things I learned through my process was to honor all the religions, just as I would languages or beliefs or anything, because they all break down. I've had moments where just had epiphanies where I realized many different spiritual practices was just speaking about the same thing, because I felt the background that was in the vibration of the message. So.
Like, we're talking about spirituality, and very seldom do I ask the person right away about mind, body, spirit, but that's a question I'm going to ask you. So the podcast focuses around the mind and body and the connection between the two.
Sure.
But what does the mind, body, spirit mean to you? How would you define that?
Very simply, it's the ceremony that we're in. From the minute we take our first breath, we're in this ceremony of life, and we're here to, go through experiences and grow from it. Mind, body, spirit is meant to grow from it. And ideally those happen kind of on the same level. So, or on the same frequency, those things move forward, in the same way. So, if one's moving forward, if the spirit's moving forward more, if your spirituality is moving forward and your body's not, you're overweight or you're riddled with cancer or something like that, and you're going through a spiritual awakening, there's something off somewhere. I believe that eventually, when we find balance between the mind, body, spirit, it's really what we're here to do. We're here. And once we start getting close to those balances of equaling out all those at the same time, we start to have epiphanies, and we start to go through changes, and we start to realize, that our traumas are actually blessings in disguise. because there's lessons that are wrapped up in the traumas. And if we can get to those and find those true blessings in those ashes, we find those embers in those ashes and dig them out. That's I think that's what it's really about, and I think it's the mind, body, spirit balance. Very simply, I think is the reason why we're here on this planet, in this body, because we're much more than just this body, and this body, a lot of people think, we're going through ascension process, or we're going through all these different things, where the government's finally admitting that aliens are real and all this other stuff. A lot of people believe that the ascension process, they're waiting to go to another place. The deal is to figure out that this is the perfection. This is the divinity that we're in right now. This is the heaven that we're in right now. We have to shift our perception. And that's, that's a lot about my first book talks about. I'm perfect and so are you. I chose that title. I actually didn't choose that title. That title was given to me when I was asked after the book was done. I didn't have a title, and I asked just what the title was, and it was given to me a dream that night. So, and the title was meant to challenge people, the I'm perfect and so are you. It challenges, challenge boundaries that we built in our heads from birth. Nothing's perfect, this, that, and the other, it's okay, but nothing's perfect. That's not really the truth. Everything is actually perfect. As far as from a divinity standpoint, our day-to-day, and if we break down our day-to-day happenings, if something happens, a horrible thing happens in our life, we blow a tire, or we wreck a car, or we even lose a loved one or anything like that. In the grand scheme of things, that is a speck of dust. And it's not even that in the grand scheme of the cosmos. Because I believe that, we're living in an infinite field. We're experiencing right now, I believe humanity is letting go of the illusion of duality, the illusion of time and space.
Right.
It's all starting to shift, and it's going to affect so many scientific findings, because the basis of understanding is about to shift throughout humanity. I don't mean to jump ahead right there, but
no, that's okay. Not a problem. Other people I interviewed, there's an interesting thread in a number of interviews I had recently, that there is this, not movement, but this shift, a slow shift, a shift to understanding who we are in many different ways. One person said that we're at a point of the age of Aquarius, and that's how he describes it, that we're at a point where we're going to understand what universal consciousness is. That's pretty trippy stuff, but it seems like a lot of people are talking about that. And I love what you said about the balance, because very seldom do we talk about the balance between mind, body, and spirit, but I totally believe that. So it's an understanding it's all connected, but if you're not balancing these, you're not nurturing your spiritual self, your mind and body will suffer. Same with the other pieces.
For sure. If you break it down a little bit more than that, we have to understand, when it goes to the basis of the universe, we're talking about going all the way to source, and this is jumping way ahead in the conversation, but source, it is the ultimate consciousness that we all share, basically. When that breaks, the first fraction of source goes to masculine and feminine. So every being that's manifested has this energy inside them as well, masculine and feminine. So, we have been, males and females have been conditioned to be really separated in whatever pronoun, that they go by, man or woman. They embody that energy that's inside them, and the other one goes more dormant status. And that's how it's been over the past, 50, 70 years or so, with the industrialization and feminization and putting women in the kitchen and men go to war. And that's hard, and that's pushing the separation more. And I would go so far to say that the powers to be, and that go past, I'm not even talking about governments, I'm talking about world powers that control the world powers. They know about this. And this is the reason why this has been happening, because that separation starts consciously, is fed to them and goes inside them. And so they embody more. The men don't show their emotions, and women don't step up and stand up for themselves. But now you're starting to see that starting to coming back in and starting to fold back into itself and starting to rise. That is the ultimate balance. That goes deeper than mind, body, spirit, because mind, body, spirit is just talking about our physical stuff, like really our physical self and our manifestation right here, you know. And it talks about spirit, but when you get down to it, we need to balance the masculine and the feminine. Men need to learn how to talk. There needs to be more men's circles. There need to be more women's circles. The masculine and the feminine needs to heal, and it needs to heal through us.
So it's interesting you're talking about masculine and feminine, because when we were chatting on the phone, you mentioned that ayahuasca, which is, I'd like to get into quite a bit here, quite fascinated by it. We've talked on this podcast about psilocybin, ketamine, but ayahuasca is, a lot of people are talking about that. You've told me that ayahuasca is feminine. You refer to her as she. So keep that in mind when we get there, because if I forget, I want to talk about that, like why you see her as feminine. You mentioned that, there's this standard that we have about, men don't talk and men go to war, right? The warriors. In 2005, you were deployed in Iraq. You had actually 2 tours in Iraq, correct?
I was so to start off, the job that I did in the military, I held a secret security clearance. So I was a forward observer. I was in the Army. But I was attached to different units and infantry units, even Navy SEALs and special warfare units. That's so a lot of the stuff, even a lot of the missions, really, I can't even really talk about a lot of the missions I did, especially my second deployment. My first deployment, I was more of a armored security guard. We ran people back and forth from the airport, demilitarized zone, the embassies and things like that. We were just basically an armored transport. Got hit by IEDs a few times.
Oh, really?
We did some prisoner transports too in 2005. So I actually went to Abu Ghraib prison and dropped off prisoners while it was still in operation. There's a crazy story behind that. Like the gate got hit by a suicide bomber while we were there dropping off prisoners. So we were transferring high-value prisoners in between an interrogation facility and wherever the next facility they were going. So we were, on Dos Skills location, and it was Camp Liberty, and in between Camp Liberty and the main Saddam Hussein International Airport in Baghdad, that's where the interrogation facility was. But seen some really crazy things, that deployment got hit by a few IEDs, but that was about it. I would come home and was back within about 11 months. Went back, I came back January 2007, we came back home. No, January 2006, came back home and left January 2007. So
to Ramadi.
Oh, what's that? To Ramadi, yeah. The second deployment was to Ramadi, which is it was west of Fallujah, so it was in between Fallujah and the Syrian border, and very volatile area. Heavy combat. The unit that we were replacing, they lost over 130 people the year that they were there. We're supposed to be there a year. We were there a few months, and they extended us for 3 more months, so we ended up being there 15 months total. That deployment went through a divorce. That deployment saw a lot of stuff, and come back with PTSD. Ended up getting out in 2009, and right before that unit was about to go back to Iraq, and ended up getting out on a medical discharge. I had back surgery, and from 2009 to 2014 was a lot of depression, a lot of suicidal thoughts, suicide attempts, and really culminated in 2014 with the major suicide attempt where I woke up in the ER very confused at why I was still alive, and it was a very serious attempt, and I was basically asleep for 28 hours in this ER in a mini coma, I guess, or whatever. And I wound up having to stay in the hospital, and then really got diagnosed with PTSD. I wasn't putting the PTSD and the depression and everything together. And that happened really in 2014. And I met my wife in into 2014, beginning of 2015. Beginning of 2015, I met my wife. And really it was at a low point, and she saw something in me, and kind of gave me a reason to live again, and we got together, ended up moving to Florida, and 2016 came about, and I was all the way from 2014 to 16. I was in the VA programs, talk therapy, medication, the whole rigmarole. So in 2016, we were in Florida, and I started getting depressed again. Even going through the VA programs, something was sneaking up on me again, and I could feel it. And I was, Ella could see it in me, my wife could see it in me, and she kept. And about that time, the ayahuasca seed got planted through a conversation that I was having, and that just grew in me. And a lot of people talk about this, like they hear the word, and it's like they after looking back on it, they see it as a seed that grows inside them, like just that word ayahuasca, like it'll start churning in you until you really you go and meet it. We really kind of felt like that, it just kept it was with me until did research and trying to figure out where to go, and like everywhere I was finding kept pointing me down to Peru, or down south, Brazil or Peru. Really couldn't find any place in the States, and I kind of just gave up on it. And Ella in the background, she was looking for a place. We couldn't afford the travel to go down, international travel at that time, and but she knew that something had to be done, so she just kept doing research and ended up finding a place. We were living in southern Florida, and she found a place in Orlando, so it was only a couple hours away. And she come to me and she's like, "Hey, I booked us two ayahuasca ceremonies. It's like 40 days away. We got to start our diet right now. We got to stop eating meat. We got to stop drinking coffee and stop drinking liquor and all this other stuff." I was just like, like I thought she was crazy. I was like, okay, well, let's just do it. If you're gonna do it, we'll do it together. And so we started our diet right away. And before we knew it, we was there, and we did our first ceremony. And the first night with ayahuasca, I drank 2 cups of ayahuasca, and I didn't have any visions or anything, but I was just in the bathroom and going through a cleansing process. I'll just leave it at that. It was not pretty.
It's a plant, right? It's an indigenous plant, and indigenous people have been using it for many, 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 many years. Same with peyote and mescaline. A lot of these things we're finding now. But how does it become a drink? Like what is it? Maybe you can explain to the audience.
So it's
how they make it.
Best way, easy way to get you there is it's a jungle tea. It's made of Basteris capi, which is the vine, the ayahuasca vine, and chacruna. This is the traditional brew. There's other brews depending on where you're at. You can use different plant combinations, but one holds dimethyltryptamine, 4-NN dimethyltryptamine, and the other one is a MOI inhibitor. So if we were to go out there and just take one of these plants, the chacruna, which holds the DMT, we were to start chewing on it, or even
so it has DMT in it. Okay, I'm familiar.
Yeah. So that one of the plants has DMT in it. But if we were to go out there and cut off a couple leaves and brew up the chacruna leaves, which hold the DMT, and drink that, we would have a very short-lived, if any, experience. When mixing it with the vine, which is an MOI inhibitor, which when it goes into our body with the DMT, our body like counteracts the DMT without it. So the MOI inhibitor is needed to allow our body to process it past the blood-brain barrier, so it can affect our neurological system and go through and eventually raise our vibration and raise us to another vibration so we can see different realms or aspects of ourselves, really, when you get down to it. But it's Pisterius capi, which is ayahuasca vine, but and the chacruna leaves, and they grow in vicinity in Peru, and that's the traditional brew that you hear about mostly. And some people use mimosa, mimosa bark, which contains DMT as well, 4-N dimethyltryptamine, and acacia. Sometimes they use acacia has a really high concentration of dimethyltryptamine in it, so people like to use that if they're, especially in the West, when we're trying to figure out different ways on how to make it, and still try to stay close to the tradition behind it.
It could be another conversation, but what comes to mind too is the respect for the plant, the respect for the cultures in South America that have been using it for many, many years. Are we able to use it, but at the same time have respect for the cultures that we've found it from?
I believe so. You're going to get different takes on it if you go down there and walk into a tribe and start talking to people. Most of the time, if you go to the head medicine person and sit down and talk to them, they're going to tell you that, this is on a much bigger scale than them. This is medicine of the earth. This this is what we need to come to, and this is one of the messages of ayahuasca, and one of the missions of ayahuasca is coming together as a planet and looking at us. We need to. The tribalism needs to come apart, and we need to look at ourselves as one tribe, a earth tribe, and that includes everything that has a beating heart here is all part of one earth tribe, and that's the oneness aspect that we spoke about pre-show and all that. That's what the main message of all this is. We need to understand that we all share one consciousness, but we're going through an illusion of separateness, and we need to find balance of that so we can move forward in our evolutionary path. We're at a point where we can't move forward evolutionary body-wise, mind, body, spirit-wise, but especially body-wise, we can't move forward without an actual conscious change within ourselves.
I get that from my background in Buddhism, but once again, there's threads of this conversation about universal consciousness. Let's talk about consciousness. Let's talk about the oneness. Some people have very substantial experiences using psychedelics. Now, in this case, I don't know if DMT is considered to be psychedelic, but often what people are saying is that after taking the drug, no matter what it is, they have almost a disconnect from this perception of I am an individual, me, mine, and they connect with something that's much larger. Did that happen with your first experience, or did that happen after a couple times trying ayahuasca?
It'd be my second experience. I really had a breakthrough, and so it was 2 ceremonies. Friday night, Saturday night. Friday night was horrible. We that's the one we just talked about.
You're in the bathroom a lot.
In the bathroom a lot. So the next morning I wake up and it's like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. The sun's just coming up. Pretty much everyone's asleep. And I wake Elle up. I'm like, hey babe, what's going on? What'd you experience last night? She's like, it was horrible. And I was like, let's get out of here. And she's like, well, we paid for another night. I was like, I don't care. Let's get out of here. I don't even want to go through all that, And she's like, let's wait around and talk to some people when they wake up, and let's just see and maybe think about staying. So long story short, we ended up staying that second night, and oh man, I drank 1 cup, and 20 minutes after drinking the first cup, I was sitting there, and I felt like I had about 3 or 4 breaths left of my life, and I looked up and there was a light, we were in the backyard of this house just outside of Orlando, and a wooded area and stuff, but everyone parked their cars in front and we were in the back. So this light was coming around the back and it was coming right at me. And I thought it was a car at first. And then as it got closer to me, it was I saw one light, and I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm so messed up. I walked to a railroad tracks that's like a mile away or something that's, that we passed when we were coming in. I was like, holy shit, I'm sitting on the railroad tracks. I don't even know it. Yeah. And as it come to me, that light just overtook me, So the light of, like if you go through a near-death experience or whatever, and you hear about the tunnel of light, I perceived it as a car, and as a train, and all that. So my physical mind was like grasping on for some rationalization all the way up until the very last moment, And once it hit me, I started seeing. At that time, I perceived what I was seeing as past lives. So I was seeing pictures, multiple different pictures go past me as I went through this tunnel of light, and I recognized them as. So at that time, I really considered them other lifetimes. Now it's a little bit different. It's more dimensional fields or vibrational fields or whatever. It's the whole linear timeline thing is taken out of the equation. So, the verbiage has to change slightly to show that. Yeah. So went through this whole light, and at the end I met the spirit of ayahuasca, and she was huge. She took up the whole universe, and we spoke, and I basically just sobbed, and she told me it was okay. It was the first time really experiencing spirits like that I could remember, and it's very emotional for me. So she just kept hugging me, giving me a bunch of love. And then I started to go back into my body. I could feel like our connection going away from each other. And she just kept telling me, she's like, you're going to see me again soon. We're going to be working together the rest of your life. And so I come back, I signed up the next weekend. I come back, and me and Ella did 2 more ceremonies that next weekend. And that third ceremony, I went into that ceremony and with the intention and asked a question as I took the medicine, like it's a whole process with ayahuasca. Like, you pray with it, like get your question in your mind, then you drink the cup, and that's ideally, that's if everything works out correctly, that's that question to be answered in the ceremony. And it was. I asked why I was supposed to be here, and I was shown I was going to be speaking to people like this and writing books and going to conferences,
which is what you're doing now.
Yeah,
it gave
so
you,
my life is, my life has turned into what I saw then, and we just had our investors come out here a few weeks ago, and we're about to buy another property, and we're going to be having Egypt tours soon, and a bunch of other things coming to the church, where we're going to be taking groups down to South America to some retreat centers down there that we're affiliated with now. And it's just amazing, man.
Wow.
To see it all.
What a transition from coming back from Iraq and experiencing depression and suicide attempts, and then you had this unbelievable experience that changed your life, but at the time you knew where your life was going to go. That's wild.
I had no idea, like, going into ayahuasca. I tell people all the time, I went into ayahuasca with, deep down, I just wanted some type of relief from suicide and depression, like all the PTSD, all the hardcore PTSD symptoms, survivor's guilt, all that stuff. I wanted some type of relief from that. I needed it, and I knew that I was willing really to try anything. And I come to find out that's a sweet spot when people come to me, like when when they're at the end of their rope, that's when the medicine's going to work the best. Like that's when they're really, but hopefully people can start having more compassion for themselves and finding their practice, whether it be ice bath or, breath work or yoga or ayahuasca ceremonies or bufo ceremonies or whatever, however your connection is, or if you microdose of mushrooms, or just being out in nature without anything, just going setting out in nature for a half hour and just by a stream and listening, that all of these things are, can help you, balance yourself and connect, but nobody's going to do it for you. And that's what a lot of people, they come to medicine looking for an answer, and they realize that they've had the answer all along. The power has always been within them. It's very self-empowering, and it's in self-empowering in a spiritual, emotional, energetic way. It shows you how energy and spirit and mind, body, and is all connected. Tesla had it right. if you want to understand the universe, think of the universe in terms of frequency and vibration. That you're
Frequency and vibration.
You understand it a lot better.
Yeah, and that is another thread in these episodes about frequency and vibration. What a wonderful thing. So when you met her, let's say, you had a relief of mind and body blockages that you've had, and then it gave you a spiritual life. But what I found absolutely fascinating is the story you told me that after ayahuasca, and you have this understanding of the universe, understanding of yourself, and it's kind of like all the frequencies are kind of open, you received an amazing message, or like what happened to you when you were in your car? I believe it was in 2018.
But yeah, in 2000, I think it was 18. I was riding, and I was in Florida, and we were doing a bunch of ceremonies, ayahuasca ceremonies, San Pedro ceremonies, and this was like one of my days off, and I had this guy that was with me, my buddy so my wife was with me. We were riding in the car, and my buddy was in the back seat, and he was behind me. So as we were driving, he was asking me questions, and he was going through having visions and stuff, dreams and stuff like that. And he was asking me to help him interpret them, a little bit. So as we're driving, I'm talking to him, and I'm looking in the rearview mirror. I'm driving I'm like in Fort Myers, like downtown traffic, like red light, like every, block, and stop and go traffic. I'm like trying to like pay attention to the road and look at him and like let him know, just like, I am paying attention to you. Like, I am trying to help you with this. But I am trying to drive. One time I look up and I see myself in the back, sitting in the back seat. I'm talking to myself. I see a reflection of myself in the back seat. His face is morphing in my face. And I look at the traffic again, and everything is like vibrating, like it's an earthquake. I see like dirt jumping off the ground, and then like the fabric of reality starts to like break a little bit. I was like, well, I got to pull over. This is on no medicine or anything, I might have been smoking, may have smoked a joint or something like that. But this conversation me and him was having took me into this space. I pull over in this parking lot that was right there. I pulled over and parked, and I'm sitting there, and everything's shaking. Like I can feel my body shaking from the inside out, just vibrating so hard, and it's affecting everything. It's affecting the molecules in the sky. It's affecting the earth and everything around me. And this lady's walking across the parking lot, and she's carrying this purse. And I'm like, something tells me, I was like, make her drop her purse. And in my mind, I was like, I pulled her purse out of her hand and threw it on the ground. And her purse fell, and like all her stuff fell out. And she's like picking the stuff up. And the reality splits apart. Like, and I all I see is darkness. Like, and the ringing in my ears stop. There's silence. And I'm just in this darkness, and I'm going through this darkness, and I come up to this big ball of light. And as I approach this ball of light, it's about the size of a car or so, but it's like so bright you can barely even look at it. And it starts pulsing and talking to me. It says, "You know who I am?" And I said, "Of course I know who you are." It's like, this is the center of the whole universe. This is source, this is the Godhead, Brahma, whatever you want to call it. This is the top of the center of it all. And I just knew that, like, instinctively. It was apparent in me when I was standing there. It was like, well, I've been here many times, as everything was really, really familiar to me and all. And the next question, it said, "Do you trust me?" I said, "Of course I trust you. Like, I don't, your source. You're the center of the universe. I know who you are. I trust you." And I said, "Do you trust yourself?" I said, "Whoa." And at that point, I was already a sun dancer. I've done ceremony, led a bunch of ceremonies. And as they asked me that question, I started seeing all these people that I've helped. I've helped talk them off the cliff of suicide, and help them realign back to themselves, and just the way that ayahuasca come to me, I'd seen how it already starting to do that to people, especially this guy that was in the back seat, it was one of the people that I saw in that moment, of people that I was helping, my wife even, just everybody, just being me. I mean, even outside the ceremony, just being me as a different person than what I was, is this light. I said, yeah, I trust myself. It said, if you trust yourself, you step inside and you give up your form, and you come back into source and you can fix everything. You come back into oneness and you can fix everything. I stepped in like without really thinking much. And I got there, and as soon as I did, I started to feel everything that was happening around the planet and the cosmos, not even in this dimensional field, like all dimensional fields, and how they all were this recipe that was at the end. It was a perfect flow and a perfect design. So I saw all the hate and love was all equaled out with kindness and generosity and tribalism and anger and racism. It all, when you got down to the big picture, it was divine. It was all in perfect form. So in the source Godhead space, there was nothing for me to do. I was bored. I was there maybe just a few moments until I realized like that I couldn't survive being there, I got to see why source made creation. So there could be experiences, so we could expand and just have experiences. So he had to separate himself, and so I got showed it, while I was in that space. I was shown a creation story of my own that I speak about. I wrote about that I've shared many times, but the separation from source down to, we'll call it the masculine and the feminine, just for the sake of this conversation, duality. That duality split was so we could have these experiences up until this point. And saw all that, and I asked, okay, what do I do now? I realized why there was no one waiting outside of the throne room, or Godhead or source, and why there was not a big push for anyone to go there, because it was people go there and then they go right back, or they go into something else. But I said, what do I do now? And I said, why are you asking? You're a source in this moment, so you can go back and do anything you want. I said, well, I want to go back and be an eagle. I said, no, I was took into a dimension where I was flying as the eagle, and I said, okay, in this dimensional space, you're an eagle, and that's why the eagle has connected with you in this lifetime, like Drew's lifetime now. I come back in the body, like, no, I want to be, a hummingbird. I went through all these different animals, like really, I didn't want to come back and be a human, really. And at the end of it, I went through a few things, and then I just realized that I was asking the wrong question. I was like, what is supposed to happen? Like it said, there's a being that needs to go walk on two legs with the understanding that you just come out of the bathroom. Like you need to come out of the throne room like you just come out of the bathroom. You can retain, you're going to be able to retain this, you're going to be able to articulate it, and you're going to be able to reach the people that need to find this on their own through your words and everything. You're going to usher them back to where they can go and find this on their own. But we need someone to go back with this understanding full on two legs of one consciousness. And, there's many others that are going to be walking, and eventually all of us, it's part of our evolution, this evolutionary shift that we're going through. I was going to be one of them. I was going to be a mirror and a messenger and a voice, and also basically a mirror. So people, once they fully understand like what I'm talking about and really feel what I'm talking about, that everything is one, if they're seeing it in me, that means it's possible within them. And that's what I was supposed to come back and do. And I said, yeah, let's do that. And so I come back and retain that memory of being in the throne room without any cloudiness or anything. So I recall it just as if it happened the other day. And I come back in and looked at my wife, and she was crying. The guy in the back seat was crying. They went through their own experience. My wife, she was in she saw this happening and everything, and she saw what was happening with my body, but she also got pulled into a state as well. They describe it as they felt my vibration engulf them and bring them in as witnesses to this happening, both on the physical and spiritual level. So they were both shook for a while, but especially the guy in the backseat. My wife has been through experiences before, like crazy experiences with me before and since then, but it really shook the guy in the back seat for a while. He was really shooken up about it.
You're saying some crazy things that she's observed in you. You shared one with me. Are you interested in sharing about Osiris?
Sure. So Osiris is an Egyptian god. He lived for hundreds of years. His wife was Isis. He had a son named Horus. Back in the Egyptian folklore, these gods come down and they help usher in a time back in the time when they were present here on this planet. But really what they were star people, aliens from other planets. And really when you break all that down, the relationship between star people and us, the Native American tribes, several Native American tribes look at star people as relatives. And very simply put, they're either past, present, or future us's. And there are other aspects of humanity, either past or present. So what happened with Osiris was me and my wife were driving in between California and Florida. I asked my wife, I was like, hey, you mind driving? I'm going to try to get an hour or two of sleep, and then, I'll try to make it the rest of the way home. And she said, sure. So we pulled over. I got in the passenger seat and basically went into this meditation and started speaking about a bunch of stuff, and started just speaking what I was seeing in my mind's eye. And eventually Drew stopped speaking, and this energy started speaking through me. And I was kind of in the background. It was very weird. It was like
Incredible.
First time channeling. And I kind of, got tricked into it. And I tell people, my first time channeling, I got tricked into it. But so as this goes on, I keep switching between these. I thought I was switching between these beings, but I was progressing up into this point, and finally this being starts talking about how he's a British soldier and he's in a submarine and he's about to detonate a nuclear bomb, like the special bomb up underneath the water. This is like World War II era. And I can see all this. Like I'm in the I could see like the submarine. I'm at the little button. I'm about to hit it. And I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, man, this is crazy. Like we're about to blow up. We're about to blow the door open on this alien base that's underwater. I know this all sounds really crazy, but
you need an open mind in these things, you need an open mind. But
so this is what I'm, seeing in my mind's eye. And I'm not speaking, Drew's like in the background, this energy is like speaking through, and he's the soldier. And all of a sudden, right before he hits the button, he gets teleported and they wound up on this planet. Like they get pulled off of Earth right before I'm able to detonate this. So next thing I know, like I'm on this big like landing deck on this planet, and I can look out and there's like, I can see other planets and stuff, and there's like beings that are walking up, like multiple different species of aliens that come walking up to me. And we're all freaking out and we can't do anything. There's maybe 24 of us or whatever. The whole crew of the submarine is sitting there beside the submarine, and the submarine's like sitting there on its side, like sideways on this deck. And I get paired up with this feminine version, and it looks pretty much like us, but there's some differences in the facial features and everything, but it pretty much looks like a female human, beautiful. And she was like my guard, and we ended up having a relationship and having a baby, and that baby got sent down to Earth. And then I started speaking as that baby, that hybrid baby. My wife's talking to me, and she can recognize, and this is all, I've recorded all this. I'm about to release a recording with subtitles and everything, and I'm just looking for the right time to do it. But yeah, so she's speaking, and this, she can, especially in the video, you can really hear that there's a different being now that's speaking. And it's a totally different intelligence that's been speaking before, and it's speaking through me, using my using my vocal cords and everything, using my body to communicate. And It's talking a lot about humanity and why Drew's here and all that, and it's this being's talking about Drew in third person, everything. My wife goes, well, how does it's getting towards the end of the conversation, and this Ella goes, how does Drew connect with you again? Like if he wants to speak with you again, or speak through, or you speak through him. So just say my name 3 times, and it says my name is Osiris. And I spoke Osiris. When I spoke Osiris through me, it felt like I was throwing up. It felt like the biggest relief of my entire life when I said Osiris, and I said Osiris a few times. And no, I've never said Drew's never said Osiris before this point. He didn't know anything about that. Like, and going back and listening through a recording and really doing research on Osiris, the hairs stood up on the back of my neck over and over and over again. It's like, and so I'm on my phone, after this, we stop in Colorado, and then we continue on to Florida. And I'm just like, my mind's like freaking out. It's like, really no one, Ella can kind of feel what it was like because she was present, but no one knows like what it was like to have that being speak through me, not knowing, and not really being in control and really being scared of like demonic possession and stuff like that, because this is
I was going to ask you that. You must have been shit scared during this. Like,
yeah, there was nothing I could do about it. I was shit scared, but there was nothing I could do about it because it was it humbled me as a human being for sure.
I bet
it humbled me as a human being for sure, but also empowered me too, like because it allowed me to understand that some aspect of Osiris, Drew shares that consciousness in this space, and it doesn't matter Drew, Osiris, or anything, because when you get down to it, it's really about the vibration of the words that I speak. And when people hear that, it does what it's supposed to do. And I don't have to worry about anything else. And that's really where I'm at this point in life. But the rest of that trip to Florida, was listening to the recording, going over it, playing over the car, like, man, Ella got tired of hearing about it. She's like, Jesus Christ, I need to get out and I need to get away from you for a minute. You're like talking 90 miles a minute. And because I had like, along with the consciousness of Osiris speaking through me, I also got the residual from that was huge downloads in the background of like information and understandings just were clicking, and like memories and visions of Egypt and me being in Egypt and things. And, Drew's never been to Egypt. He's been to Iraq and, Kuwait and things like that, Germany, but he ain't been to Egypt. And, but I was having full blown like memories, like you would have a memory of yesterday. I was having memories like that. When you get down to maybe it really wasn't Osiris, but in the background of manifestation, Drew wrote that whole thing so he could he could start to expand his mind. So your mind has to break apart to be able to expand. Humpty Dumpty has to fall off the wall so he can be put together.
Now, I'm sure that you're no stranger to skepticism, right? So there's going to be listeners that are going to go, wow, I don't know if I buy this. How do you address that? I mean, I'm sure family and friends, when you shared your experiences, even with using ayahuasca, but the experience that you shared right now, how do you address that when someone goes, that sounds like bullshit?
Yeah, and I get it. It took me a long time, and in a lot of ways, I'm still battling with it. Of who I am and what I'm doing here, and why I'm here spreading this message and all this stuff. But ultimately, I know that my message isn't meant for everyone to hear at this time. And the people it does hit, it's undeniable. It brings a vibration inside them. And we hear what I'm talking about. If the hair stands up on the back of your neck and it does something for you, and it allows you to articulate or share one of your stories that happened that you may not want to share about, that's ultimately my hope. I'm not here to share these stories to boast about it. they happened to me. I'm sharing my experience. And this is the best of my ability to articulate it and remember it. This is what happened. Ultimately, what has happened to me, like in my life and everything around me is showing proof that I'm on the right track. So I don't care. When it gets down to it, I don't care. With family members, with people in my life. And, the right people come back at the right time. And like I said many times, I want everybody to eat, but not everybody's going to eat at my table,
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone's going to be able to really understand what I've been through. But hopefully the people that, are listening to this or reaches their ears, they've seen something in the night sky, or they've seen something go bump in the night, and they haven't wanted to talk about it since they were a kid or the past 10 years or whatever. And hopefully hearing me speak, maybe they can go into what they experience and start to delve into it instead of looking at it like something they don't want to talk about. Like, because I've experienced, we're just scratching the surface. Like, we could be here for days talking about all this stuff. Like,
I really wish we could. What comes to mind is that for the people that aren't saying BS, the people are saying, I relate to this. I've had, a little bit of this experience, or people that are going, wow, I think I want to look into ayahuasca. I think I want to look into Drew's books. So if you can kind of share some resources or what you recommend for people regarding ayahuasca, and talk about your books, the name of your books.
Yeah.
I like the one title that you have, I'm Perfect and So Are You. But where do people go to find out about ayahuasca and to go to a ceremony?
The best way, you can Google it right now. There's a million videos out there. There's tons of resources. And back in 2016, it was out there, but it really wasn't like it is now. Like, this is a really unique time for it. And this is one of the reasons why we formed Sacred Journeys Within, which is our church, Sacred Journeys Within. You can find it at sacredjourneyswithin.com. And that's the hub. You can find anything about me. You can find links to my podcast, Eagle's Nest Podcast, my books, which is I'm Perfect and So Are You, and Find Your Inner Guru as the second one. And they're available through my website, or you can also get them through Amazon. Or if you're in Southern Colorado, there's a few bookstores, Narrow Gouge bookstores in Alamosa, Colorado. If you ever go through Alamosa, stop by there. My books are there. But yeah, man, there's so much that we could talk about. There's just so many.
And maybe you come back, right? Maybe you come back, and
I'm always open to that. And because there's always things that come up. Like what I'm talking about today might not come up next time. But I would say if you're listening to this, broadcast right now, this recording, there's probably a good chance you've seen synchronicities, number synchronicities, or had deja vu. And now you're listening to this podcast, and now you're listening to me saying this, so it's freaking you out a little bit. So just let the boundaries down. Every one of us, we're on this path. We're on this evolutionary path. It's a collective thing, but it's also an individual sport. We're allowed to do it at our own pace.
Well put. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful that, you covered mind, body, and spirit for us. I think it's the first time that we actually talked about that part of the mind-body connection. Drew, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your experiences. And I'll take you up on that. I'm going to bring you back, because when we had the pre-show, the pre-interview, we got a really, really cool conversation that I'd love to expand on next time. So
yeah, there's a lot, but
and a lot of really interesting stuff. Yeah.
I'll leave this whole thing with a little bookend. This is the first channeling I had from Source. It said, "You are the creator through the power of manifestation. Step back into your power to facilitate the upcoming evolutionary shift."
Amazing. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good, brother.
I think Mind Body Matters has become a show about drugs. You've got your... So, folks, if you want to know more about drugs, tune into Mind Body Matters. No, that's quite the interview. So today we're talking about your DMTs, and in the past we've talked about LSDs, and then you got your STPs, and
I think in the 60s and 70s there was STP, but in this ayahuasca, there's DMT, and back in the 60s, if you really were in that love generation, then had a few partners, maybe you'd have an STD.
That's funny. I'm sorry. Let's get back.
But in all seriousness, because
in all seriousness,
right? Because this was a serious interview, and we don't want to make fun of Drew, but like at the end, Rob, I'm not sure.
But I'm skeptical. I know
you are,
and I know you asked the question. You asked the question. A lot of people are going to go, okay, Drew, this is a little bit out there, and as you said, they might call bullshit.
Right. I mean, that's the reality of it. Listening to the interview with Mind Expansion, he had this experience with an Egyptian god called Osiris.
Yes. Yeah.
And then later on, there was this kind of confusing thing about channeling a soldier from the Second World War. Then it got into...
Was it Kent? I'm trying to remember the name. He referred to a name.
I don't remember offhand.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But then it kind of went into the submarine thing and the alien thing, and I followed him, and as I said in the interview, it takes an open mind, and we both have a very open mind. And I know that you're more skeptical than me. I'm kind of on the fence as to what this is about. But then again, with Dr. Singh, a very credible psychiatrist, he sees benefit in using these psychedelic medications. There must be something in it. And I believe that they're considering ayahuasca to treat depression. So there must be something about it, that's credible.
Well, my takeaway from this thing, Drew Banke has gone through a lot. He served in Iraq, and he came back from that war and discovered that he had PTSD, and if anything, I picked up from this thing by using ayahuasca. Maybe it gave him the opportunity to find himself, his purpose in life.
Right. Yeah, and respectfully,
I'm okay with that. Find your purpose, and it sounds like he's relatively happy in life right now.
Yeah, I mean, he built his church, and his wife went along with the whole ceremony and experienced some of the things that he experienced. But yeah, I mean, you can't knock a guy that has found a spirituality and found himself, and it works for his PTSD and depression. So yeah,
exactly. So I mean, more power to him. And he talked about this oneness. I would like to say that I wish that all of us as a oneness could all get along. That's what I'm noting. Yeah, because I mean, you and I were talking. Well, you and I were talking before the show today on the phone, just talking about a couple things we were going to talk about. I had just said, we've got a problem with racism right now in the world, and I just wish, it's like going back to the songs from the '60s. All you need is love, or by the Beatles, and I just wish that we could all get along, like just as one. As one people.
If you really do believe, what people like Drew Banke talk about, that, there is a universal consciousness. He says the realization is you're not separate. If everyone really, understood that and believed it,
we all get along.
We would all get along, and we wouldn't treat each other a certain way, right?
Yeah, that's, I'll tell you, this interview with Drew Banke, I will admit, for me anyway, was a little out there. But at the same time, I respect his decisions. He found himself. He discovered his purpose in life, and more power to Drew.
Right. Absolutely. And this is why we do the podcast. We bring in different guests, and not just the experts, but people that have experienced things in their lives. And that's why I wanted to bring Drew on the show. We're going to talk to Alice Grasset, who has a very interesting story she told me, where she used psilocybin, that magic mushrooms that Dr. Singh talked about, in not a ceremony, but a very medical-based psychedelic assisted therapy program that, that's a different type of story, and I'm looking forward to talking to her about that. Also, do you remember Dr. Robert Shepard, who we had in a few times?
We've had so many doctors on the show. Now, who is Dr. Shepard again? Help remind me.
Yeah, no problem. So Dr. Shepard was a doctor friend of mine that kind of explained what the deal is with Big Pharma.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And then he came back again, and then he talked about fake science. There's this pseudoscience that's out there that people are buying into, and there's a program for kids that apparently was science-based, but him being a psychologist and researcher, he kind of knocked the crap out of that and said, you got to be very, very careful about what they call science. So I was thinking that we should have Dr. Robert Shepard on the show periodically, because I want to bring him in to talk about psychedelics specifically. And does this doctor, does he buy into it? Does he, is he skeptical like you? Is he on the fence like me? Someone to kind of discuss what this is all about. And I think we'll have an ongoing series with him.
I know you find this topic fascinating.
Everything is fascinating to me.
I still like that STD joke. That was funny.
Probably a little bit rude. If anybody doesn't know that STD is sexually transmitted diseases, I'm sorry it came out, but I'm glad you liked it.
But again, if you're doing too much LSD and STPs, you might end up with an STD.
Right. Especially, if you're using MDMA, because, that's the love drug, right? Anyway. Back to Dr. Robert Shepard, we're going to have him come back. And I talked with him about being a regular guest on Mind Body Matters. We've never had a regular guest yet.
I thought I was your regular guest.
You're my regular co-host. Yeah.
Okay. No, that'd be good. I'd love to hear him back for sure on a somewhat of a regular basis.
Right. So that's that segment I think we're going to call is Dr. Robert.
Dr. Bob.
We could go with Dr. Bob. I like Dr. Robert because it's a Beatles song. But in any case.
Oh, okay. All right.
We'll have Dr. Robert come back and talk about this episode and see what he has to say about it. Meanwhile, I hope you guys out there are downloading our episodes to start a queue and get notifications of new episodes coming up. If you found this episode on Ayahuasca interesting and insightful, please give us 5 stars or a review on the platform that you're using. Mind Body Matters is a Grape Media podcast, and we'll be back next week with my good friend Robbie. Meanwhile, be kind to yourself.
And most importantly, folks, be well.
Thanks for listening. And if there's a topic that you'd like to hear about, drop us a line at mb-matters.com. Be sure to like and follow us on all our socials. And if you like what you hear, hit subscribe or follow and share with your friends.